enabling and disabling a control like a button on your PowerApps screen is not a big deal. I'm pretty sure you all can do it. But we want to do it based on the user. So if there is a manager, some certain button should be enabled. That control can be active only if, for example, a supervisor logs in. Something like that. Well, it's not a big deal again. You can put all those users in a SharePoint list, in a Dataverse table, anywhere. So again, just find a user. If that user is part of that specific list or specific group that you define, job is done. But if I'm going to do it, it's going to be a little bit different. I don't want to look into those nerdy, creative ways to do that. I'm looking for a way that perfectly fits in the corporate operations. So basically, by definition, when I want to release a solution, that solution should not be in my territory anymore. I completely want it offsite. So I don't want to see that anymore. Complete transfer of the ownership from project team to the operation or service desk. What that means is that if I have a new user, I don't want to go to a certain list or library and add that user there. I don't want extra work for myself. If someone is supposed to use a certain app, I want service desk take care of it. A request, especially to get access to something or revoke access to something that can potentially be sensitive. I want it to be logged in some form of request. I don't want to get there. But the whole thing is that I want to design my app in a way that adding and removing users is not falling inside the app or the app administrator. It should go all the way to Active Directory group membership. Now, let's see how we can do it in PowerApps in this video. Before doing anything, let's review our setup. I have an app like this with 3 buttons on it, and Mr. James Smith is a user with the Office 365 license in my environment. So this guy has mailbox, has permission to run PowerApps, and I want to create 2 AD groups. And I want to modify this app in a way that when I add James Smith to YT Manager, all of a sudden the button that is labeled for managers is enabled for him. If I add him to YT Supervisors, the button that is designed for supervisors should be enabled, so James Smith should be able to use it. Now, let's start by creating the AD groups, and then we get back to the app and discuss it. To start with the AD groups, I go to admin.microsoft.com. You log into your tenancy, assuming that you are the admin of that tenancy. So I go to the active teams and groups, and I click on Mail-Enabled Security. I want to add 2 groups. One of them is called YT Managers. The other one is YT Supervisors. Add a group. It can be Mail-Enabled Security or Security Groups. They both works. In my Power Automate for PowerApps Developers course, I completely covered the difference between the Mail-Enabled Security and Security and when to use which one. For this one, it doesn't really make a difference. I just pick Mail-Enabled Security. So we can do it because James Smith is actually a licensed user. So I can click on Next. And the first group that I want to create is YT Managers. And I just click on Next. YT Managers. And I click on Next. And Finished. I add another group. Again, Mail-Enabled Security. Next. And I call it YT Supervisors, and I click on Next, YT Supervisors, and I click on Next, Create Group, and I click on Close. Although it says the group is created, it usually takes a while to be complete, so just keep on refreshing till you see the group. Sometimes it takes a minute or 2, so you got to be patient. Again, let's refresh it again. If we don't see it, it doesn't matter. Let it work in the background. We will get back to it later. So we created 2 AD groups. Now let's get back to the app that I've already made for you. It's very simple. This app doesn't have much. It actually has a label here. that shows hello, the current username. We have managers, supervisors, and for everybody. And none of these buttons do anything. So they're just empty buttons. As you can see, unselect for all of them is false, so they don't do anything. All I want to do, I want to enable and disable them based on the current user group membership in Active Directory. First, I need to find the user. And if you look at this one, I put only the first name here, not the first name, last name. How do I put the first name here? Although you may think it's irrelevant, well, it is very relevant. So let's take a look at it. The user is a built-in function inside PowerApps. It has only 3 properties. It has full name, it has email, and it has image, right? So there is no way I can extract first name from it. So it puts my complete full name here. And if you want to display the image of the user, go for it. Simply, I just add image. So we clearly know which user is actually using the app. Let me just put this guy here, expand it a little bit, and the image, it can be user.image. There we go. It shows my picture. So basically, we have a control that can get the image of the user. And that image, again, is coming from the AD, but the user function by itself only exposes these 3 properties. We need a little bit more than that. For example, for this one, I need only the first name to be displayed here. Assuming that all the information is in Active Directory and all the groups that we have are in Active Directory, if we can make a connection to Active Directory, we can get the first name here. We can also get the group memberships from Active Directory. So our key is creating a connection to Active Directory. So let's say add data, and I can say Azure AD. There we go. I click on connect. It prompts me for the username and password because this is a fresh environment. There is no other connections here. I click on next, and that's it. Yes, we are good. So it actually made a connection to our Azure Active Directory, and now we can use it for lots of things. The first thing that I want to use this guy is to get the first name. Let me just get rid of this one because I don't need that anymore, at least the way it is. I just add my Azure AD connection that I just created, and I just say get user. For the get user, it requires an ID, and that ID, when it comes to the user, it can be simply the user email, which we have it already. If I say user.email, I have it. So let me just close this, and all we need to get out of it is now the given name. So boom, we got the first name. Now it shows hello Ali Raza instead of my long last name. So if it is so cool, from Azure AD, we can get Ali Raza or current users membership in all the AD groups, right? To keep the things clean and take baby steps, I'd rather create another screen, do all the discussions and talks somewhere else, then whatever that we need to work with, we bring it to this screen and we actually put it on production and we present it to the user. So let me just add a new screen here. Just a blank screen, and whatever it is, let me just rename this first screen properly. I call it SCR home screen. And this one, I really don't care what I want to call it because we're going to delete it at the end. Let me put a button here. Here it's. There we go. Let me make it a little bit smaller so we all can see it on the same screen. When I push this button, I want to get a connection to the Active Directory and get the current user information, including all the group memberships, right? Let me just call it temp. There's a temporary button. And I go to my Azure AD, and I want to say get member groups, right? You can use get members group or get members group v2. They both do the same thing, a little bit more or less. Again, it's asking me for the ID of the user. We are dealing with the current user, so I can simply work with the user.email, which represents the unique ID of the user. The second parameter is that do you want to use security-enabled groups only? Yes, we don't care about any other group memberships for the user, like email distribution lists or anything else. So I say true. I close this, and this guy returns all the groups that this user is a member of. If it's a list of groups, it is an array, it's a collection, it's a table. So let's put it in a variable and examine it. So set, I say user groups. I also want to start it with var so we know it's a variable. Did I put my comma here? Oops. Yep. Now we're good. Okay. So as soon as I push this button, it gets all the user group memberships and puts it in this variable. Let's run it and see what we get out of it. I click on temp. All right. Doesn't show anything here. But if I click on it and I double click on this guy, it shows me var user groups and shows me the groups that they are not that readable. Yeah, every group in the Azure AD has a unique identifier, and the get member groups only returns those IDs. Now that we have a collection of the IDs, if we pass those collections to Azure AD, probably we can get the actual name of the groups, right? So let me come back here. And to process all the items in a collection or in a table, I can use for all loop in PowerApps that as the first parameter, it's asking for a collection. So I can say var user groups. And then I want to say what I'm going to do with them. So let me just close this bracket and I will add whatever I want in between. I want to create an array of strings that actually contains the name of those groups. How? Just like this. I can say collect group names, and I want to prefix it with call so that I know it's my collection. And every time that a user is processed, I say this record, which is a current record that is for all is processing, dot value, which is that ID. So basically, every time I get an ID, put it in this collection. But I really don't need the ID. I need the group name. So just like that, I go for Azure AD this time, and I say get group. Get group gets the ID that the first function get member groups provided, and returns the entire group with all its properties. We don't need all of that. We just need the group name, which is display name, right? So let me just save it again. And before we test anything, I want to go back to my admin portal and just to make sure that this group is created, refresh, bingo. So now YT managers and YT supervisors are created, but there is nobody in them yet. And when I run this, it should give me all the group names that I am a member of as the current user as Ali Reza, right? It's a collection, so let me just run it. Let me click on the stamp, and we get back here. And this time again, if I just click on this guy and I click on call group names, this time it gives me one group name, which is called first team. Let me go there and add myself to one of those two groups that I just created and see what happens. So here, for example, I add myself to YT managers, members, and I say view and manage members. I'm not here, so I add myself here. I picked myself and I click on add. That's it. Now, one thing, if I just go back here, let me just run it and see what happens. Click on temp. I go back here, so I pick that button again, and I click on call group names. First of all, it picked first team twice because we didn't clear the content of this guy from the first call. Probably it's a good idea to delete this guy. So clear the content of this, although it's not necessary when we actually implement it, but for now, let it stay there. Let me run it again. But my new group membership does not come here. Just keep that in mind for the AD. Everything has a bit of delay, so be patient and let it do its job. This time, bingo, we got it. So it's just a matter of time. If you just add a user to a certain Active Directory group, security group, don't expect it to happen immediately. It usually takes a while to take effect. If it's a collection, we should be able to show it in a gallery, right? So let me pick a gallery. Let's pick a blank horizontal gallery. Let me make it a little bit smaller. And I can pick call group names, right? Looks good. I pick the first cell. Let me just bring the whole thing a little bit lower so it doesn't overlap with my button. Also, let me bring that button here. So, okay, we have this gallery here, and it should show all the items in the gallery, but it doesn't have any control. So I pick the first card, and I just add another text label to this card. Put it in the top left corner. And as you can see, as soon as I add it, it shows me the value, which is the YT managers and first team. Let me just squeeze this guy a little bit more to make it smaller. Or no, you know what? Let me just make the font a little bit bigger, maybe 20 to match the rest of the pages. There we go. Okay. Maybe a little bit bigger because later on we will have supervisor. Okay, so let me just make it smaller. And now this gallery shows everything that I want to see as of group membership. And it is an array of string. And guess what? This call group names, when we created that, we used collect. Collections are global for the entire application, which basically means once it is created, we can use it in any screen, right? So let's go back to the other screen, that home screen. If I say for managers, display mode, which by default is edit, let me just get rid of it. And I put a condition. I say if YT managers, this is the group name, is in call group names, which is the group names that the user is member of them, make display mode dot edit. Otherwise, make this display mode disabled. And I just close this guy. And I save it. And if I run it for managers, because I'm a manager, it shows me there. All right? How about supervisors? I'm not a member of YT supervisors. So I just go back to the display mode for this one. I copy everything. I bring it back here for the supervisors. Don't forget to change the property. I pick display mode, and I just paste the entire thing here. But this time, instead of YT managers, I say YT supervisors. And obviously, because I'm not part of it, it is disabled. Let me just save it here. And I also want to see all my group memberships here. Easy. I just go back to the other screen, copy or even cut it, bring it back to this screen, and just paste it here. And bingo. Right? Now if we go back to the other code, which is my temp, I copy the entire thing here because I just need to run it only once, and that's the moment that the application starts. So I pick the app, I go to an event called onStart, and I just paste the entire code here. One more thing, we don't need this clear anymore because this code runs only once. So there is no way that the group names can be added again and again. So we get rid of this one too, save, and the application is ready to run. I don't need this screen 2 anymore. I just get rid of it, save, and it's time to test the application. Right? Let me just close this guy too, make it a little bit smaller. I go to save, and I want to publish it because I want to test it with James Smith, right? Publish this version. All right, we're good. It's already shared with James Smith. Let me just show you. So I've already added James Smith here. To test that, I go to PowerApps client app, just make sure that I'm connected with the right user, James Smith. I'm connected to the right environment. So if I click on open, I see the role-based UI, which is the app that I'm working on. So after we published, James clicks on this guy. Because the Azure AD connection was not there before, now it prompts the user for the permissions. I click on allow, and at the moment it says hello James, and James is not a member of anything, and both these buttons are disabled. Now let's go back to the AD groups and add this guy there. So I go to YT supervisors, and I go to members. I add James here. James Smith, add, and again I give it a minute, and then I test the app again. I go back to the app, I get out of the app, I wait a minute or two, and then we come back to this. Now let's test it. I click on role-based UI, and bingo. Now James is a part of YT supervisors. This app is for supervisors, so James can click on this. We can go back and add James to the other group, for example, YT managers, members, and I say James this time, and bingo, add. And now James is also a member of managers. Here you don't see the changes immediately. I just restarted the app. Now let's click on it and see if this guy works this time. Yes, it got both of them, and James is a member of both those groups. And in this way, when you have a new member joining the team or joining the company, you just send a request to the service desk to add this person to this group, so this person will get all the right access levels to this app. And that was it. I don't know, seems like I'm going too far into administration and operation, while majority of the audience of this channel are developers and workflow designers and stuff like that. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you want to see more of content like this that basically takes developers into the world of operations and administration. And we discuss how we can work with the operation and support effectively rather than building a solution in isolation as nerdies and developers or whatever we want to label ourselves. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to push that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.